Hello, it's Thursday, September 26, 2019 at 1 o'clock in the East, and this is Higher Ed Special Edition. I'm your host, Andrea Boyle-Tippett from the University of Delaware. Today, we are talking about what's undeniably one of the most important topics out there, safety. On many campuses, including my own, different units handle different aspects of safety. There's policing, mental health, student conduct, emergency preparedness, medical assistance, the list goes on and on. It can be hard for students to know where to look for information, and that can make it hard for them to know what to do. My guest today, Tony Doby from West Virginia University, and his team tackled the sticky issue of bringing together messaging owned by different stakeholders and presenting it in one easy-to-access spot. Tony is the Senior Director of Marketing at West Virginia University, where he has positioned the university as a leader in creative marketing and social media. He is a vocal advocate for new and innovative approaches to marketing in higher ed. At WVU, he leads a team of talented social media managers, market researchers, advertisers, marketing strategists, and trademark licensing and brand experts. In 2015, he was named a 30 under 30 Rising Star of PR by PR News. And under his leadership, WVU has earned numerous accolades for its innovative social media and video content. Today's Higher Ed Special Edition is part of the Higher Ed Live Network. Episodes offer you direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. The conversation is better when you join in, and we encourage you to do so using the hashtag HigherEdLive. Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a digital-first agency committed to tailored solutions that drive real results. All of our Higher Ed Live episodes are easy and free to access in the video archives at higheredlive.com, or you can take it with you on the go as a podcast. Today's episode is made possible by PRSA's Counselors to Higher Education Professional Interest section. Counselors to Higher Ed provides PR professionals working in colleges and universities with publications, insights into the best ways to promote the value, power, and appropriate role of communications and marketing functions within your institutions, and terrific networking opportunities, as well as virtual events. Please mark your calendars for our next webinar. That's on October 29th. The topic will be Homegrown Social Media Influencers, How to Empower Your Students as Brand Ambassadors. But that is not until next month. Today, let's chat with Tony. Welcome, Tony.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us some insights on what you're doing at West Virginia?
Yeah, happy to. I'm going to run through these slides. Hopefully they work. And then as we have questions and things, we can do that as well. So are you seeing some slides on your end, Andrea?
I'm not seeing the slides just yet, but unfortunately
Okay.
We have that little delay of 20 seconds or so. So hopefully if you start talking on them, we'll be seeing them.
Let's see what happens.
For everyone
Okay.
else, we have a preview, but the preview's 20 seconds behind. So if you want to just all wait for 20 seconds while we wait for that to go.
Yeah. So, all right. So let me talk to you a little bit about West Virginia University. So we are a public land grant institution in Morgantown, West Virginia. We have about 30,000 students and 3 different campuses. So we have one in the Eastern Panhandle, one in the south of the state as well. And we have 2 health sciences campuses as well. So we consider ourselves the flagship institution of the university, of the state. And so this for us is a really crucial issue. So in this session, we will learn why our students are so worried about their safety. We'll see the process for developing a comprehensive campus-wide safety and wellness website, which is what we did, and gain tips for communicating safety and wellness messaging to students. And then I'll talk a little bit about faculty and staff and parents as well. So let's talk. It looks like these slides are a little off, but we'll go with it. So Generation Z is a nervous population. This is the most nervous group of students that we have. And for that reason alone, safety and wellness is such an issue. So and one of the things is they think about safety all the time. I'm sure on your campuses you are hearing about safety and wellness issues. Maybe you are more so now than you did 5 years ago. We for sure are. So this topic is one that at least we've seen increase. We see more people talking about it, and it was something that we really could not ignore. So let me talk a little bit more about Gen Z. Gen Z has lived in a world where safety is a constant concern. So they were born after 9/11. They have routine active shooter drills in school. They have, news headlines almost all the time about violence in schools. There's a higher bullying rate now than there ever has been before, specifically in high schools across the country. And mental health is being talked about more now than ever before. So this generation, and when I talk about this generation, it's pretty much every student that we are trying to recruit and all of our students that are currently on campus, for the most part, unless they're a little bit older and in the millennial or above generation. So I want to give you a little bit of an idea of what we really have to think about now, knowing that this generation is just a little bit different. So first, we need to understand that students want more information on safety. That is the necessary piece of this. They want to know that they're safe when they come to your campus. They're going to want to know that they'll be taken care of and that they will be safe. So they grew up, like I said, with active shooter drills, and rarely on our campuses, at least I can speak to WVU, we rarely or ever have had a campus comprehensive safety drill. That's just not something that higher ed does, and they are so used to it. In high school, that's just something that happens consistently all the time. They know the protocols. And because we don't have this in higher ed, it causes anxiety. And if we did, the process would be much different. You would do some things differently. At least we would do things differently on our campus than what students would do in high school in an active shooter situation, for example.
To your point, I was mentioning before we started that I had a police officer come speak to my freshman class yesterday, and she noted that we didn't have points of gathering. And she pointed out to them the differences between how an active shooter situation might have worked in their high school versus might work on our campus. It's an open place, and so we don't have, this is our gathering point once you run, and those sorts of things. So it was interesting to me that the students were so tuned into that she actually had to talk about, how this will differ from their situations in high school. Just to reinforce your point there.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that we've learned as we've done research on this topic, and I want to say I'm by no means an expert in safety and wellness, and I just do the marketing for it. But we have heard, and I think everybody has heard, the run, hide, fight three-word saying. In high schools, a lot of the time they are locking down, so they're starting with the hiding, really, and then they move to the next one. On college campuses, because to your point, they are so open, we start differently in an active shooter in a crisis situation. So it is totally new, and because it's new, it does create that anxiety. These students expect colleges and universities to provide safety measures, and are not afraid to let you know if they feel unsafe. That's something that we have noticed so much more over the last 2 or 3 years than we ever have before. And surveys and in conversations and social media posts and comments, we have seen safety and wellness pop up much, much more than we have in the past. And Gen Z is also concerned about its mental health. This is a really different trend than we've ever really had. Our students do have a lot of anxiety and stress, and this generation, the facts are that they have more mental health diagnoses than any other. And they're not afraid to share that they're not doing okay. And what I want to say more than anything is that this is actually a really good thing. They are more apt to tell us when they feel uncomfortable. Things aren't going well. They're more often likely to talk to their professors and faculty members to let them know that they are struggling a little bit. So I think this is something that higher ed should definitely embrace. And from a marketing perspective, it's something that we're taking on board and changing some things that I'll talk about in a little bit because of that. And just in general, our students expect a high level of mental health support as well. And they expect that that's just something that is available to them. And if not, that's a huge negative. So I want to talk briefly about how we got to where we needed this sort of a website. I'll just say fairly clearly that this really started for us around a campus carry conversation that popped up earlier this year within our state. West Virginia was, the legislature was looking at passing campus carry on public university campuses across the state. It was a really hotly contested debate across the state. West Virginia is a fairly conservative state in terms of the way that it votes. So there was a lot of back and forth. I think just to make a point, the university and all of the public universities in the state were against it, but the debate really went on. And to the point where we had some protests on campus one day where a couple of hundred faculty, staff, and students came out to in opposition to it. So we spent a good, I think probably a couple of months preparing for the fact that campus carry was going to pass in West Virginia and that we needed to be prepared with as much safety and wellness information as we can. And that's where that website idea really came out.
And just for clarity, I mean,
yes.
This might sound very simplistic, but the law in West Virginia, at least prior to this conversation, was that you weren't, the only individuals who were allowed on campuses to carry a gun were police officers. Is that fair?
Yes, correct. And then you would need a concealed carry permit to carry if the campus carry were to pass.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but for as we moved forward through the legislative session, it actually, as you see here, the campus carry bill ended up failing at pretty much the last minute, and it was a pretty close vote. But it was something that as we planned for this to pass, and then it didn't. So what we ended up with is a lot of preparation for something that didn't end up happening, which I feel like all of us in PR and marketing, that's about half of what we do, is kind of prepare for the worst case scenario. So
some of my best work never comes out of my files.
Yes, exactly.
I'm really excited when those things don't happen.
Yes, but so I think whenever we ended that discussion in the spring, we realized that regardless of what happened with that, the conversation about a comprehensive safety and wellness campaign and website is still really important and something that we needed to do. So over the summer and late in the spring semester, we really started the conversations about what can we do to make this something that can be beneficial to students, faculty, and staff on campus. So and then just to add to this, and this is something that's been not new, but increasing in number over, I would say, the last 8 months. We have seen so many more students on our campus posting public social media comments about safety and wellness concerns. We used to have this in the past, but they are bringing many more things to light than they have in the past. Things that they're upset with, things that they've gone through that they want to talk publicly about. Those things have the potential to be very damaging to the reputation of the university, but they're also really serious concerns that we want to take seriously as a university. So those are the types of things that we have seen more of and are trying to find ways to deal with them the best we can. I'll talk a little bit about how we're dealing with that later on as we go through this. So we knew based on all of those things that we had to do something different. So I want to walk through, I think it's 8 or 9 steps, things that, the steps that we had to take to make this safety and wellness campaign happen. The first thing that we did, and step 1, was to survey students. And we did a kind of an informal survey, at least in terms of higher ed purposes, but we knew that we needed to get to students where they were. And where they were having comments and concerns and complaints. And a lot of those happened on Instagram and Twitter. So we decided to do this survey on our Instagram story from our main university accounts, West Virginia U. There were more slides than this, but I just wanted to show you and give you an idea of what it looked like. So we gave them a poll that they could kind of move it lower or higher, depending on how informed they felt about a topic. And then we gave them the opportunity to give us feedback, things that they wanted to know more about. And really, this was a great start for us because beforehand, we were really relying on what we felt from a communications and marketing background that we needed to get out to students. This gave us an opportunity to look at what we really needed to work on first and prioritize. So as you can see by the little poll there, active shooter procedure is actually the one that rated lowest on there. And as we realized and went through the process, it was rightly so. We really didn't have a spot on any website anywhere that talked about what to do that was easily accessible. With what to do for a student or faculty and staff member in an active shooter situation. So that was step 1. We really needed to find out what they wanted to hear and know more about.
Do you typically use Instagram stories for this sort of feedback? I know we've used it minimally, not for a survey in this kind of way, but have you used it with success? I mean, obviously you used it with success here, but is that something you're finding more and more valuable?
I think Instagram, and especially Instagram stories, is a really powerful tool to talk to students in any way. So we do a lot of Q&As, interactive pieces like this with Instagram stories. And I think, you know, if in concern to this particular situation, we had about 500 comments and feedback, and I think we had more than I think it was, I can double check, but I think it was upwards of 5,000 or 6,000 people that actually used the polling tool to let us know. So in terms of, you know, actually going out and doing a survey, sending it via email and all of that stuff, I actually think we had better results than we would have had if we did that type of thing. So we try to use
much better response rate. Yeah, that seems.
Yeah. So I know there are certain limitations with InstaStory, but to me, that's the stuff that we work around. And in this case, we were still able to get all of the detail and information that we need. So next thing that we really did is we took time and we searched our own websites. You know, we have thousands of them and hundreds of them that focused on topics around safety and wellness. We started to just go through all of those websites that had any relationship to this project and take a look and build a running list of the programs available, the information that we have, the tips and tricks, and all of those things that we give to students somewhere in our WVU atmosphere. So we have a Word doc that is, you know, tens of pages long with all of the websites, all of the information and things like that existed. So this was probably the most crucial step. It was the step that took the longest because it gave us an opportunity to see what was out there. Without that, I think we would have started to reinvent the wheel a little bit. And what we realized is that a lot of the safety and wellness information and programming is out there on our websites somewhere and through different offices and programs that we have. So we didn't have to really reinvent anything. We just needed to get it into a better place. So after we did that, we connected with areas offering safety and wellness information and programming. If that was the reason that they exist, if they're, for example, our University Police Department, our Carew Center for Mental Health, our wyu center, which focuses on student health and wellness. All of those departments, and there are many more, we had dozens that we ended up reaching out to, but we started conversations with them in the summer about how can we partner. Is your website information correct? Are there things that you want us to prioritize over others whenever we build this website? Are there programs that you think are industry leading or that you think students really need to know more about? We asked all of those questions and to help inform us in building the website that we did. So after we did that, step 4, we created a comprehensive campus safety and wellness website. You can visit it at safety.wyu.edu. And what I would say to this, and these are the conversations that we were having with folks throughout the process, but this website is not meant to take the place of other websites on campus. We heard that concern a lot. You're taking away my website or the need for my website, but we weren't. All we were doing is making this place a hub. So whenever a prospective student or parent wants to know about safety on our campus, we have that website there. That takes you to many different sites, but you can start there. We can start to, from the highest level, say, what are our university priorities in terms of safety and wellness? And those are the pieces that we prioritize on this website. All of the other safety and wellness websites and information are there, but they'll be a little bit lower down or in a different space. So we created this website, and I'll show you. I'm not going to show you that website. Feel free to go and check it out at some point. But I'll show you different pieces.
For easy access to.
Perfect. Thank you. So next step is we identified 9 topics that were most important to our students based on the surveys that we've done. And you can see them here: active shooter, pedestrian and driver safety, discrimination and harassment, hazing, medical amnesty, medical care, mental health services, sexual assault, and tobacco and smoke-free campus. Those were 9 areas that we said when we launched this website in August. These are the areas that we want to have the most detailed information on. So if you go to the website and you click on one of these, you will go to a separate page. And on that page, you will see all of the information that you need for something like active shooter. You see that we use run, hide, and fight and what that means. You see information on how to get informed if this sort of situation happens on campus. There's information there on training. Our university police department does an active shooter training that anybody can sign up and do. They can do it for a group, they can do it individually. It gives them an opportunity to be active and proactive and in getting that information and learning the steps they need to take in those types of things. I'll point out the one in the middle, medical amnesty. This is really our bystander awareness program. Before this website existed, there was no information online anywhere at the university around medical amnesty.
Oh, wow.
So for us, this was huge. It was an opportunity for us to get out a little bit more of the word about what it is, how students qualify for something like this, how it can save lives, and is a really important thing to know about. So that's, to me, more than anything, the fact that this website exists and that information is there, along with all the other things. But that's the reason why this is important. And it gives an opportunity for us to share really, really important, crucial information to students who really want to know more about it. Okay, so we did that. The next thing that we did is we created dedicated social media channels for this effort. So once the website was live and everything was good to go, as we were building the website, we were working on a social media strategy. We have a Facebook and a Twitter account for this. The Twitter account is the one I'd suggest to look at. It's at WVU Safety. And it is used basically to help promote safety and wellness on campus, but specifically this website. Before, we were relying on university police or some of those other areas to tweet out on their own or post on social media tips, safety, links, all of those types of things. And the reality of it is, there aren't a ton of social media managers in those areas where we have a dedicated team and staff to do that here. So For us, we can make things consistent, on brand. We can talk about those university priorities when we need to. If there are situations that happen on campus, and we need to subtly touch on those and give some safety tips based on things that we know, we can do that now. And it has been a huge benefit to us as well. And just to add to it, the left screenshot there, as you can see, we ended up splitting apart 2 accounts. So we used to have a university police specific Twitter account. What we decided to do was turn that university police Twitter account into our crisis alert Twitter account, which is at wyu.alert. So that account is only used now in a crisis situation. What we had heard before from our students is that combining the general university police safety tips with crisis communications was confusing to them, or they were missing out on the crisis information because they started to ignore the account because there were so many tips and other informations that they just didn't care about. So we went to at wyu.alert there, and at wyu safety is something that was new, but we started to put those tips and other information in that area. Okay, so we did that. The next thing we started to do is make this a priority from day one. So on the left is a slide from a presentation that some students led during our Welcome Week activities. We had an optional presentation that students, specifically new students, could come to. And it was an hour-long presentation focused specifically on safety and wellness. This is something that we've really never done before. It was literally, I think, the second day they were on campus, the day after move-in, they had the opportunity to come to this, to view all of the resources, to talk to people who are in their situation as a student, to talk about safety and wellness on campus. And then the piece to the right is actually a safety one-pager, and on the back of it is a wellness one-pager that we will actually put and start to put in, hopefully in the next couple of days, at our visitor center. So whenever students and families come to visit for the first time, they're able to see this from the get-go. Here are the resources you have in terms of safety and wellness on our campus. I know our visitor center tour guides have heard a lot more questions from parents specifically about safety and wellness topics on those tours. So this is kind of an answer to that question. Here are all the things that you need to know, and then we can answer more specifics whenever they're on tour and things like that. But this gives them a little bit of a primer to that topic. All right, and then the last thing that we did, and this is still a little bit ongoing, just kind of vetting it with all the right people, but we updated our crisis communication plan, and we partnered much closer with university police. So like I said, I'm in charge of our marketing unit, so in a crisis situation, I'm really focused on the social media aspect. April Call, our director of communications here at the university, is focused much more on the wider external and internal comm plan for a crisis. Together, we've been working with a couple other folks and with university police to update our plan. It was about 2 years ago since we updated the full plan, and our social media plan was actually 3 or 4 years old. So we made some significant changes, specifically on the social media side. One of the big ones that I'll mention is what we had done in the past is every text alert that we would send is auto tweeted from our wyu.alert count. And what we started to see is, as we had smaller crisis situations pop up, they are. And the way that Twitter has kind of changed, and that if you ever log out of Twitter or you close the app and you open it back up, it doesn't show you the latest tweets anymore. It shows you a screen that's home, or it's building Twitter has its own algorithm now, so it's showing you things that they want you to see first. Well, what we noticed is that they were seeing one-off tweets from crisis situations days later. And they weren't seeing that the situation had already been taken care of, that the all clear was posted. So without the ability to connect our tweets together, we were actually confusing a lot of people and scaring them and making them a little bit more anxious that something happened again or the same thing happened again. So the first thing and I think from a user perspective, the first thing you're doing is not looking at the time that something was tweeted. You're looking at what the actual text says. So if you're not looking at those details, then you totally are confused. So what we started to do is basically, as we said, that first text alert that we will send out, that is auto-posted to Twitter. And then from there, our social media crisis comm team will take and update. So, we don't send a bunch of text alerts in crisis situations. That's just something that we haven't done in the past. We use Twitter as a way in between every 10, 15 minutes to update people. So in that text alert, we send people to Twitter. But we are able to now connect every single tweet together in a string from beginning of process to the end. And that I think that change is going to really help us communicate during a crisis, but also make sure that we're doing things consistently, getting the word out, and not confusing anybody. So. Okay, so that's the process that we've taken from probably about May until today. So I want to talk a little bit about how we'll take this, and then we'll move forward a bit. So our plan is to constantly update the website. As issues arise on campus, we know we may not have as much information as we need on that site, and new problems or issues will continue to come up. So we'll use this website to highlight safety tips and programming on many different topics outside of those original 9 that we have. We will also be adding specific information for faculty and staff and parents of current students as well. That's something that we've heard is, this website is really good for students, and it is, we prioritize students in developing and launching the site. But we want to make sure that faculty and staff and parents have dedicated spaces as well, that they know what to do in certain situations, or at least they have a place to go to get to the right places to find out that type of information. From a marketing perspective, we have monthly themes that we're focusing on, and you can see them here from September through November, skipping December since most people are off campus, then bringing them back up in January through April. And these, what I would say to this, and I've been telling a lot of folks on our campus, is just because this is the monthly theme doesn't mean that we're not going to talk about these issues across every month, because most of them will be. But
right, you don't only have to deal with pedestrian safety in November, right?
Yes, exactly. That is something that's important at all times. But what we started to say is we will have some dedicated events on campus. We will have some dedicated marketing and advertising material. We'll have some dedicated Instagram stories and university-wide marketing pieces in that month around that topic. And then our hope is by April, you will see advertising and marketing about all of these topics all across campus in different areas. So that's kind of the idea behind the monthly themes. But we are talking about these things on a weekly basis from our accounts and in our marketing and communication. And then what we've been talking a lot about is outside the box environmental advertising. So, on our campus, and I'm sure it's similar across the board here. We do a lot of things like posters and flyers and T-shirts and things like that. We do a lot of the same things. What I've been talking to our team about is thinking outside the box a little bit. Let's partner with some folks. Let's do some things in a different way to help this campaign stand out a little bit more. I'll give you an example for a medical amnesty perspective. We're thinking about doing some mirror graphics and restrooms across campus, in a spot that they can look at themselves in the mirror while they're reading this type of thing and be like, if you were in this situation, would you help? So make it a little bit more pointed, but kind of make it interesting and different, something that they will remember. Sure. Because I think a lot of the times, they see a ton of posters every single day. It's hard to remember everything you see there. So So we're working on something like that new every single month that will pop up on our campus. The next thing is we have something called Campus Conversations, which in the past has been focused around having conversations with faculty and staff. But in this particular case, we're going to extend this to students as well. And these are large public discussions that we have with some experts. So we would probably bring in experts from university police, maybe city police and safety, our wellness groups, and have them give a little bit of a presentation, but then be able to take questions from faculty and staff and students. And then we're working to develop some focus groups with students in particular for later this year, maybe early into next year, to take a look at all of the things that we've done so far this semester and ask them what they think. Is it working? Is there more that they want to know about? This whole project is better because we have brought students in, we've gotten their insight. It's really been our kind of guiding light throughout this. And I think that's made it, I think it's made it as successful as possible because of that. The things that we're hearing from students around this site are really positive. A lot of them just saying, you know, to be able to have a place like this is great. We didn't, you know, before we had to go to 5 or 6 websites before we realized where we needed to actually be. This gives them an opportunity to not have to do that. And I think they appreciate that. So that's what the campaign will kind of look like through the rest of the academic year. And this is also something that's just not going to go away. It's a university priority. We'll take a look in the spring about how we can extend and advance this for the following year as well. But this is kind of the plan that we have through the end of the academic year. Okay, and then so what I want to do, kind of finishing up, a couple of tips that we've learned to maybe if you were thinking about doing something like this on your campus, how you can replicate it and maybe not, some things that we noticed that could help, things to maybe worry about, and some things maybe not to worry about. So no need to reinvent the wheel. This is something, I think I mentioned this before, but what we found is that pretty much everything that we needed outside of the medical amnesty piece that I was talking about, it all existed online. And most of it was up to date. And if not, that was an easy conversation to be able to make sure that they updated the website to what it needed to be. But promote what already exists out there. There's likely already a strong safety and wellness programming and information out there on campus. If not, then I would say that's probably step one, to work with your university to emphasize that and build that. But this effort is not to build safety and wellness information and programming. It's to help share it and not necessarily create it from scratch. So just, I would say, make sure you're taking a look at what already exists before you head out and do something new, and then partner with those folks. The more that they can be involved, the better. It allows you to make sure that there is buy-in from the get-go from all of these places that otherwise are doing things on their own. And letting them know that we're not trying to steal their spotlight, but we're trying to share and make it bigger. So the next thing is, don't ignore comments from students around safety and wellness. And this is something that we have really significantly changed over the last 6 months. In the past, we have, when we've noticed, for example, a student's tweet complaining about an issue with student conduct or a Title IX issue, something like that, we have sent that post to the right people and made sure that on the back end of things, they were dealing with it. But we were doing what we thought we needed to do and share those posts. But what we realized and started to do and change is say, that's not enough. I mean, we can be much more open and honest and responsive publicly than we have. So what we have started to do now, any post that has a concern like that with safety and wellness, we are responding as fast as possible. Whether we usually always do it publicly, but sometimes we also take it into a private message as well. And we show that we care. likely we aren't specifically answering a person's concern or talking specifically about it, but we are showing our concern to their issues, that we care, and then we're passing them on to somebody who actually can help them. I say this a lot, but social media managers have a tough job. Answering those and fixing those questions are usually above their pay grade. So what we try to do is make sure that we are getting that information of who to contact, who can really help, like a dean of students or our director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those are the people they really need to be talking to get their voices heard and to fix things that they think could be wrong. And what we have noticed so far is that once we started to do this, it has kind of lessened the blow and the hurt that our brand feels anytime these pop up. Because I think people instantly see, okay, WVU responded, they are looking, they see it. A lot of times what has happened in the past is if we haven't responded, then we have people mentioning us to that original tweet back and back and back, hundreds of times sometimes, saying, why aren't you taking care of this? What are you doing? And because of that, it builds and grows and becomes viral on our campus for a day or two. Those are the types of things we don't want to happen.
Social media abhors silence, for sure.
Yes, exactly.
Here in Delaware, we had something similar where they're still trying to get to the bottom of it, but I'm at the University of Delaware, but there's another institution, Delaware State University, and because there was not a lot of messaging about an individual who was kind of on the loose in the city that they're in, it kind of spurred this rumor, and they actually had to have a lockdown because they thought that because social media had created such a problem with thinking that someone who was an escaped criminal was on their campus, when in fact this person was not on their campus.
Wow.
So it's a good example, I think, of showing, that sometimes you have to message things as they're going on, putting information out there, even if you don't know much, saying like, we're on it, we're working on it, that sort of thing. Because again, it abhors silence, and you end up people end up spinning things out of control without information.
Yes, absolutely. Hopefully you can still hear me. I had to change, my AirPods were dying.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay, so and last piece of advice that I have is to make sure that you partner with the right people. Develop working groups. This is something that we did from the get-go. We had had two working groups, one focused on safety and wellness information, and one focused on safety and wellness programming. And these groups worked together. We brought in people from a lot of different areas of the university. That's how we got a lot of our buy-in early on. And so, like I said here, include those who are experts in key areas, and don't wait until the end of the process to communicate how this will help the school. We have monthly what we call key communicator meetings. So any person who is doing any sort of communication at the university is invited to that meeting. I think I have been up in front of them talking about this effort since May. Every month, kind of updating them on what we're doing, how they can be involved, how they can help. Make sure, especially if you are at a large university with many players and partners, work with those folks, because that'll be the best way to actually make this happen.
It's interesting you say that about the programming, because I think a lot of the time people who are in positions like ours in communications and marketing aren't necessarily putting on programming or pairing their communications with programming. That's really unique and important.
And one of the things that we saw as we were doing research too is there was a lot of programming overlap. We had 3 or 4 different areas doing bystander awareness training. And so one of the things that we talked about very early on is, why is that the case? How are they different? Can those 3 or 4 areas partner together? Can they develop, who does it best? who is most effective with it, who has the ability to reach the most people with their training, those types of things. We're still working on a lot of that stuff. That is by no means done, and you have to bring a lot of people into the conversations to make that happen. It just can't, be marketing and communications folks. But at least we started that conversation, and I think as we head through the next year or so, we'll start to see how we'll have fewer number of the same program, and we will start to take a look at making one program for the masses, and we think that's a better way to handle things, so everybody has a consistency to things.
Sure. Two questions. When you're talking about partners and when others are thinking about partnering to do something similar, first question would be, who are your most vital partners in this effort outside of your organization?
So number one, and I think they are by far the top over anybody else, is University Police. So we, from the very get-go, brought them in. And the great thing is that the way that our unit is set up, we actually have direct links with University Police. So on my social media team, for example, we have a social media specialist dedicated just to safety and wellness and transportation messaging. So, and she talks directly with University Police all the time. We have a marketing strategist who focuses in a lot of areas, but one of them being University Police. So for us, that relationship and building and making sure that was there was important, because what we realized is that more than anything, University Police did it the right way. They had all the trainings. They had the capacity to handle large groups, small groups. They were prepared for training for students, for faculty and staff. They do things by the book. They are consistent. Those are the types of things that we saw early on, and we were like, okay, we need to make sure that University Police is involved as much as possible. And then outside of that, really, in terms of the partnerships, we're talking about those leaders in certain other areas. But I would say a strong partnership with our student life area was really critical, just because they help. They also are in charge of a lot of the student programming that happens. Like I mentioned, wyu as a partner, but Student Life manages that. And so to be able to kind of connect more with the student side of things and bridge that gap. So those were the two that I would say are the biggest partners. And then everything else kind of just fell in place as well.
My second question there was, were there any groups that weren't necessarily on your initial list that you were surprised to find out were doing something related to safety, or that just didn't come right to mind?
Yep. And it's funny. I tell people this all the time. Once you put a website up and live, it's amazing how many people contact you wanting to get involved, even if we contacted them before and they didn't get back to us. But I would say, so one of the areas that we weren't thinking a ton about, but we realized is such a significant piece to this, is our environmental health and safety group, which is a really significant group on campus. They handle a lot of the lab safety, and they're the ones that you call if there's mold or other issues similar to that. And so they were on the website, but we weren't featuring them heavily. They contacted me, we had a conversation, and now we're working to develop a partnership where they have a larger space on the website where it's a little bit easier to find who to call, when to call, how often, how quickly they should respond, all of those types of things. So I do, it's slowed down a little bit, but at the start of the semester, I was getting an email every other day from folks that wanted to be more involved. To me, that's a great thing. That means that this is working. They want to be, they want to be involved. They don't see that we're taking away from them, but we are supporting them. And that's exactly what we want from this.
That's awesome. I'll remind everyone that they can send some questions in via the hashtag HigherEdLive. I wanted to quickly ask, Well, one, I thought that another group that might be ignored, not necessarily ignored, might not come right to mind. Think about operations people too. I know you all have a huge athletics department. We have our football stadium filled up on the weekends, and so that's one of those safety concerns that they have their own set of concerns, moving mass amounts of people and accessibility issues and all those sorts of things. So it's important to keep those people in mind too, people who are dealing with events happening on your campus as well, that might be dealing with groups that are not necessarily always on your campus.
Yes. And, one of the things that I would say, we have a lot of large scale welcome week events where we're bringing 5,000 people into our football stadium to make the state of West Virginia with our incoming class. We have a concert the day before classes that I think had about 20,000 people there. We have seen and heard more concern than ever around large crowds, security in those spaces, and making sure that they feel comfortable there. So we have amped up police presence. We have developed specific emergency protocol. I mean, they'd already existed, but we have put it now publicly on a website, promoted it, made sure people knew what to do if something happened. Because, it's one of those things that I think for a long time we have always been prepared, but we have always ignored or not really saw the need for it to be publicly shared, that we had a plan.
Right.
Now I think we're getting to the point where everybody wants it. So let's share it. And the fact that we have it is a great thing. We shouldn't be ashamed of it. We should be proud that we are as prepared as we are. And people will become more comfortable knowing that. So.
And I can imagine it's one of those things tactically too. You might want to be reinforcing messaging within, if it's inside of an arena on the big screens, or football in the programs, or any of those things, and announcements that are made at basketball games. All those sorts of things might be also other tactics that you can deploy as this evolves about what to do in the event of an emergency.
Yes, absolutely, spot on. Our athletic department does a really, really good job of, again, partnering with university police and police from around the state and city to make it very clear that they've got things, very clearly marked, and what to do in certain situations, where to go. Clear bag policy has been a huge thing that changed 2 or 3 years ago, but it really changed the game for an event situation.
Absolutely. Can you talk about the budget that you have for this?
Yeah, so I don't have a number for you. But really,
this would say not a number necessarily, but you did have to put some money behind it. Again, you can do it pretty on the cheap, but you seem to be deploying some tactics across campus that take a little more, that need a little more money behind them. I didn't know if you maybe had done some promoted social posts as well.
So we haven't done any promoted social posts. What we have kind of done on that side of things is say, let's take advantage of our most popular social media accounts, knowing that our current student audience is following a lot of those accounts, and make sure that they are sharing the information to get to the site. So a little bit of an organic social media advertising in that way. What we are really focusing and putting the money that we have toward are those smaller pieces. Well, not smaller pieces, but those kind of one-off marketing pieces and advertising. Like I talked, those mirror graphics. One of the things to add to that, one of the things that we did for our incoming students at the beginning of the semester is we developed a magnet that had all of the information that they would need to contact university police, the emergency rooms in the city, our student health, our urgent care, our campus pharmacy, our campus mental health facility. It was an opportunity for us to give them all of the numbers when those places are open. They can stick on their fridge, they can put them in their residence hall room, and they can always have that with them. We gave out, I think, about 3,500 of those in August, and then we had a reprint because a lot of people want them. We had our Parents Club asking if parents could have them as well. So we printed another 2,500 and are giving them out throughout the rest of the semester. And kind of what we've been told is this is a university priority. Don't overspend, but do the types of things that will help get the information out there. So really, that's kind of what we're running with. We're putting information in places that they will remember.
Great. You touched on parents, and I think you mentioned that's kind of a next audience to be reaching. What are you thinking about them and the best ways to reach them?
Yes, so we actually have a really great parents club here at the university. And one of the things that we started 2 years ago was a Families of Facebook group for admitted students, or admitted parents, sorry. And that has really changed the way that we can communicate with them. And we can start from the time their student is admitted and getting this information out to them. So this year we have a strategy to use that group to get some safety information out there early and often. So at least they know the answer to some questions before their student gets here on campus. And then more tof anything, we know that parents want to be involved more than ever throughout the college search process, but also once their student gets here. One of the things we always tell them is let your student grow up. This is what college is all about, but we understand that that's just not the way that most parents are working these days. Yeah. So, we're telling them that they can sign up for our text alert system, that they can use an app that we have that's called Live Safe, where something that our students have as well. If they're worried about their student safety, they can actually use that app to make sure that their students are in safe places at certain times, and it kind of gives them an idea of where they are. So there are options for parents, but we've really started to just kind of focus on, all right, let's make communications and marketing specifically towards parents, because their questions and concerns are much different than what we're hearing from students and what we're hearing from faculty and staff. So they need their own specific answers and communication plans behind it.
Absolutely. Well, we're just about out of time, so I want to thank you, Tony Doby, for joining us from West Virginia University. And thanks, as always, to our program sponsor, PRSA's Counselors to Higher Education. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And we really appreciate you having joined us for the special edition of Higher Ed Live. Have a great rest of your day.